Okay, the next little bit is about art, and it's about the artist vision. Artist vision. It's not the artist apostrophe S vision. In other words, the vision belongs to the artist. It's the artist vision. Okay, the problem I'm having right now is I am doing my art. Not doing my art, I am doing my art. But in my art studio, I've had an intruder. And the intruder is George W. Bush, the former president of the United States. A very important person, perhaps to some people. To me, he is an intruder in my artist studio. So the art that I want to produce, if I keep working and the intruder stays, is distorted. What if the intruder just sits down and is very quiet and all it does is just sits there? Perhaps I can overlook the intruder and see if I can get my vision. The point is, I never invited the intruder into my space. So, for me having to put up with the intruder, whether they're loud, boorish, drunk, or very quiet, sitting in the corner, it is still an infringement on my personal sovereignty. The intruder does not expect to be anything other than an intruder. I could turn around and say, Mr. Intruder, be my guest. Would you like a glass of whiskey? Would you like to go for a roll in the hay with my wife? Would you like to burn down my studio? Would you like to punch me in the nose? The point is, uninvited intruders into your artist's studio are always uninvited. It's like when you get heartburn and gas, they're uninvited. Why is it that right in the middle of my video, Facebook Messenger pops up? I can't seem to find a way to get Facebook Messenger to not intrude on me, even when I'm making a video. It's a flaw in the program, ? Or Facebook made it that way so that it would be an intrusive program. In the end, the point of it always is going to be, it's an unwanted intrusion into my personal artistic studio. How many of these kind of things exist? A shitload. A shitload, a shitload, a shitload. Why do they do it? It's mostly because these particular apps like Facebook Messenger or any number of human criminals have zero respect for other beings. And they actually have a great deal of shit. They got shit. They got shit, they got shit, they got shit. Not like they were punished and they got shit from their dad. They got shit as in they got no couth. You might have to look up the word couth. It's kind of an old-fashioned, olden days term, but it's the opposite of being a gentleman. If you're going to learn how to deal with ruffians, you're going to have to be a ruffian. In other words, a gentleman can only deal with the uncouth with methods that the uncouth understand. What methods does a bully understand? Only force. Only greater force will work with a bully. You cannot reason with a bully. You cannot be nice to a bully. And as much as you give to a bully, it will never satisfy them. The only thing they're looking for, someone says, is like a parental authority figure. They need to be their own personal authority figure. And they haven't developed that within themselves, or they have, and they have decided, because they're twisted and distorted, that they're going to abuse their authority. And they're going to go into your artist studio where you're working, and they're going to throw themselves into your work, uninvited. This is one form of abuse of power. Spiritually, abuse of power is, it's not able to be put into words other than it's a criminal offense. What is the spiritual way of dealing with spiritual criminals? Someone said, call them out. No, because that's like, in the Wild West where, you get in a fight in a saloon and you said, let's take it outside. We're going to have a fisticuffs. I have plenty of instincts, says the ruffian. And these instincts say, I am going to inflict myself on your whatever. It's never permitted to do that? ? When I am through my art, in other words, I have signed my painting, it is complete and it is for sale. If you decide to buy it, take it home, you can do whatever you want with it. If you respect my art, you will protect it from ruffians. If you put it in a gallery, you will perhaps put glass in front of it so that if someone comes along and throws red ink on it, the art will not be damaged. This actually happened. In the country of Canada, they had it was kind of like, it was the patriation of the Constitution. The Constitution of Canada was the British North American Act, an act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, or England at the time. And when Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister, he worked to get the Constitution for Canada by him. Anyway, he arranged with the London Parliament to have the Canadian Constitution approved, and it was signed by Queen Elizabeth II. There were 2 or 3 copies made, and it was exhibited in a public gallery somewhere in Ottawa, Canada. And someone came in, and they had an axe to grind. They were a demonstrator, and they didn't like something to do with something. So what they did is they took red ink, like a jar of red ink, and they went into the gallery where the Canadian Constitution was hanging, the original signed by Queen Elizabeth II, and they took their jar of red ink and they threw it at the unprotected document. So they ruined one of the copies of the Canadian Constitution. For eternity, that particular piece of parchment has got damage from this particular person. This is equivalent to the assassin who killed John Lennon in New York City. Your infamy. I am going to find someone who is beautiful and I am going to murder them. And my name will go down in history in the rogues gallery. That is my legacy, and it can't be unwritten. That is a ruffian, an ungentleman. And yet we see this all the time when people become incredibly frustrated with the inability to change things. What do they start looking at? They start looking at things like the symbols. The symbol of Canada is the Constitution. Whatever's going on with Canada is making me very upset. I have to do something. So I'm going to find a symbol of Canada, the Canadian Constitution, and I'm going to deface it. I can't figure out the same explanation for the murder of John Lennon. The point is, if you are interested in having good art, you have to have independence from all others. If you are going to be having your way with the artist, you are infringing on the artist. You are putting your need to be whatever you are first. You are not respecting the independence of others. Abuse of power. Abuse of power keeps coming up. Why? Because it is the possibility that I, Robert Burrows, am infringing on the... No. I'm all by myself in this room, right? No, I'm not. There are other... kindly, I will call them people in the room. They were not invited here. They've actually been told multiple times to leave because they are not welcome. So what is the nature of my art? My art is a oppressed artist who wants everyone to know about the nature of not oppression, the nature of abuse of power. Onwards and onwards we go with abuse of power here in my artist studio. The abuse of power everywhere here in this particular planet Earth. It seems to be an endless abuse of power. And the word power is incorrect because it's abuse of force. Power over others. Okay, well, it's difficult because I'm trying to tie it in to Dr. David R. Hawkins' first book, Power versus Force. So if I use the word power over others, abuse of power, it's incorrect. If I'm going to use it as I can't do it. Because Dr. Hawkins used power as a word meaning the opposite of force. But in common language, abuse of power is what it's called. But it's, to put it into Hawkins' terms, it's abuse of force. It's a difficulty. You'll have to figure it out. You can get Dr. David R. Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, from anywhere that you can buy books, perhaps. But remember, when he says power, it's the opposite of force. But if you hear the words abuse of power, it's a spiritually inappropriate way to be. The intruders in my room want to know, what is the penalty for abuse of power in a spiritual sense? They say they think it's karma. And then they say, but karma can be forgiven or something. In the end, abuse of power is something that also is tied into Stockholm Syndrome. That is where you're kidnapped and held for a great long period of time, and your kidnapper spends a lot of time with you. And basically you come to know the kidnapper very well. You're never freed by the kidnapper, but you become, the constant companion of the one who kidnapped you. This is Stockholm Syndrome. The famous case is the heiress, that's someone who is expected to inherit a lot of money, Patty Hearst, who was part of the Hearst family that owned a large chain of large newspapers. The point of the Stockholm Syndrome is, if your intruder has come into your artistic studio and has made themselves at home, uninvited, in your artist studio, your instincts are, I can't get rid of this one. You just assume you can't get rid of them. You can't. This one, it has got you. In other words, it's a reverse kidnapping. Instead of them kidnapping you and taking you away somewhere else, they have turned your home into the place where they have kidnapped you and brought you. It's strange, but that's the point. The point is abuse, abuse, abuse. And if you're going to get anywhere with your abuser, there is no instinct that helps people who are abusers. Their instincts are always, I am going to be horrible and nasty. And they are always following their instincts. Endless questions come from these kind of people. Endless questions. Because they cannot be fixed by you. And you see the endless questions, and they're very repetitive. And they are because this person is ever present in your life. And this person is trying to tell you they are actually part of you. This person is trying to say they are your shadow in Jungian terms. You can look up the psychologist Carl Jung. If this is really indeed you meeting your shadow, what do you do? How do you integrate the shadow into you? The shadow never left. So whatever this being is that says it's your shadow and it needs to be with you, it is not your shadow in Jungian terms. It is an intruder who has got major, major issues with itself that it refuses to deal with, and it keeps wandering around inflicting itself on others. It is a spiritual criminal, yes. Is it mentally ill? No. It does this because it chooses to be Mr. Stinky, Mr. Nasty, or it could be a Mrs. It's not gender specific, but in the interest of talking to you, the viewer, I'm closing my eyes and I'm muscle testing as I am talking because I'm trying to get good truth in the presence of a highly negative field. If you were involved with highly negative, toxic, don't put toxic, put highly negative. These also are your kind of beasts, people of planet Earth. And these beasts are ever going to be with you? No. They will insist that they will be with you forever and forever, but they won't. There is a big change in the winds on planet Earth, and the big change is to blow out all of the demonic, they say. I'm going to call them ones who choose to be demonic. They are not influenced by anything but their choice to be undivinity. They choose it. They choose it and choose it and re-choose it and re-choose it. I am filth. And it's not a comedy act. It's not funny. There was comedians that sang a song, I'm scum of the earth. It was a comedy act. It was funny. These ones are not funny. These ones are spiritual criminals by choice. And they're talking too much right now. They're infringing on my ability to talk to you. But in the end, there is only going to be a huge change when and when and when and when. They keep asking, and I keep telling them, that's your problem, is that you keep waiting for someone to force you to leave instead of becoming anything but disgusting, which they always choose. So when does this big change happen? It's talked about continuously on the internet. It's called the move from 3D to, some people say, 5D, which means the fifth dimension. But that's not necessarily so, because there could be a lot of beings who are like the ones on Buffy the Vampire the Slayer. There was one demon that called herself Glory. Now, Glory reverently means the glory of God. But this was a demon who said, I'm going to take the name glory because, it belongs to goodness and beauty, and I'm going to turn it into filth. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer had to interact with a demon called Glory. It's an endless number of questions that come from louche demons, because that's all they do, is they interfere with you. There's no real good ending to this video, because in the end, the louche demons always want you to continuously talk about them. When does the big change happen, the big separation of the wheat from the chaff, as it's called in the Bible? It might have already happened, ? No. It might be in progress. I can't say. Anyway, in this particular now moment, it has not happened. But I keep getting the message, it is going to happen. And I got a little clicking noise. Does that mean that the louche demons are making it look like something's going to happen? They would like you to believe that, because they would like you to believe that they are gods. They often like to reflect on the Tibetan Book of the Dead by Lama Govinda and Timothy Leary, which is a handbook for psychedelic users. And in it, they talk about the Bardo states, where you will see different forms of the Bon gods. Small G-O-D-S, not God, not like the Christian God, lowercase letters God, as in the Greek gods or the Roman gods. And the Bon, B-O-N, were they were the items that the shamans of ancient Tibet saw. And then when Buddhism came to Tibet, some of the people in Tibet wanted to blend in their old religion, which was shamanistic, with Buddhistic. Anyways, in Lama Govinda and Timothy Leary's version of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there are beautiful forms of these Bon items and malevolent forms of these Bon items. And these intruders into my artistic space are interesting in that they claim that they are the source of my art, because I am talking about them. So I am seeing them, and then I am using them to create art. It's an interesting view. I'm going to tell you that is what someone who intrudes into your artistic space will tell you. The reason that they're there is to help you with your art. A good artist, I suppose, could take anything and turn it into art, the subject of an art. Who is the actual artist? Bobby Burrows, or something that is coming through Bobby Burrows? There is only a big question mark. Many philosophers say, you can become a clear channel for higher and higher versions of yourself to come through. But the problem is that you kind of create a separation by saying, well, there's you and some higher self that includes you. And it's very problematic because you never seem to really meet the higher version of you. Yes, you can go into quietude and silence your mind and then, see what happens. Is that the higher self coming through? Could be. It's a question. I'm kind of off kilter. In the end, being off kilter is a little bit about feeling alienated.